All right. Moving on to the next division, the Baltimore Ravens and the AFC North. This was a really competitive division for the most part, and the Baltimore Ravens were predicted to go, or their over-under, I should say, was 10.5. They go just over that with 12 wins. They go 12-5. We both went over, I think, for the same reason. So what did we get right about this team?
I mean, we both knew they were going to be an offensive juggernaut. You put Derrick Henry back there. I mean, Derrick Henry was better than I anticipated. I knew he was going to help, but man, he had a monster season. Lamar Jackson, MVP season. I don't know how he does it with Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman as his like top two weapons. Mark Andrews falls off this year a little bit. It's just crazy how Lamar just finds ways to win, and he finds ways to put up numbers, and he doesn't really have a lot of.
Yeah, tough road for them. They have to go into Buffalo and then Kansas City. Probably Kansas City. I don't think the Texans have a shot, but who knows? Maybe they get to host the AFC Championship game. But yeah, Derrick Henry was a huge difference maker. I think he had 1900 yards, something like that. He was everything that we thought he could be with a good quarterback next to him, because all these years he has not had a good or great or even good quarterback next to him. I'd say Ryan Tannehill was just above average. Um, and I think the weapons, I think, are underrated on this team. I think Zay Flowers is a good receiver. Rashad Bateman is decent. Isaiah Likely, obviously, is talented. Mark Andrews, like I said, fell off, I think, statistically, but he's still talented. I think when you put all that together, that's a pretty good group of guys. So I don't want to say Lamar's doing this all by himself, because I think there is some talent around him. But I'm not trying to take away anything from him in this MVP season. And I think it'd be awesome if they win the Super Bowl. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough road for them. Speaking of tough road, the Pittsburgh Steelers projected win total coming into the season was 8.5. We both went over, and they did go over at 10-7, even though they lost the last 4 games of the season. So what did we get right, and what did we get wrong about this team?
We basically knew Mike Tomlin was going to do his thing. He'd sneak out a way to get 9-10 wins. That's what he does every year. I mean, I don't know, you could give him me as quarterback and he might get 10 wins out of that Steelers team still, right? Like, I don't know how he does it. He does it somehow. Their defense, again, a top 10 defense easily. I think their offense is just average, maybe like, between somewhere like like between 15 and 20. But yikes, like I don't know how they made the playoffs, but somehow they made it, call it. And I think a lot of it credit is that to the defense. Offense, like I think it looked pretty horrendous the last few games, and no one expected them to win. And now Steeler fans are like, should we fire Mike Tomlin? It's like, no, dude, give the guy a quarterback, not like a 40-year-old Russell Wilson. Give him a real quarterback. Like he hasn't had a real quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger retired. So give him a real quarterback and see what he can do with this team.
Yeah, he hasn't won a playoff game, I think, since 2017. Which is a long time if you're a Steelers fan. And it's one of those things where all these fan bases that are starving for success, you're talking about the Raiders, the Browns, there's a long list of teams out there that would love to have Mike Tomlin, the Bears, who's gonna bring a sense of like professionalism, like, hey, maybe you're not happy, getting to the playoffs and not winning, but like we haven't been to the playoffs in, I don't know, 10 years or something. So we'll take Mike Tomlin. So I get why Steelers fans are a little upset. I do think they're spoiled. And it was just, he just needs a quarterback, because you can't win with a washed up Ben Roethlisberger. You can't really win at least tight games with Mason Rudolph. I think they went into Buffalo a couple years back with Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback. So they've tried. They drafted Kenny Pickett in the first round, just didn't work out. But the funny thing is, when I was listening back to our podcast, the preview one, we had it backwards. We were like, all right, Russell Wilson is going to start, and then 5-6 games into the season, Justin Fields is going to take over and finish it. I don't think we expected the Russell Wilson calf injury, so it was funny. We just had it backwards. Another team really weird team, really weird season. The Cincinnati Bengals coming into the season, uh, projected win total was 10.5. We both went under. I went hard under. I was thinking 6, 7 wins. They didn't do that. They got to 9-8, so just a tad under. What did we get right about this team?
I think we both kind of were, we're like, hey man, this is like kind of weird vibes coming out of camp. Chase is holding out. T. Higgins is not happy. Who's their running back gonna be? Zach Moss, Chase Brown, like who's that? Who's it gonna be here? I think the problem is they I don't know, their defense was just pretty bad, and like Joe Burrow by all accounts had an amazing season. They just couldn't win games, and they just had some regression where they lost. I think they lost a couple of tight ones there at the end. Had a rough start to the season. I think they go 1-4, things like that. So it's hard to recover from a 1-4 start, right? Like, and you got to win those tight games. But Joe Burrow was killing it. He was a killer. And Chase was having some big games. So I don't know. I think you got to pay Chase, and I think you got to let T Higgins walk, and you got to figure this out. But I mean, and Chase Brown came on to his own towards the end of the season as well. So future is bright. Bengals just got to figure out how to fix their defense and not give up so many big plays. And I think the Bengals will be right back in this thing.
Yeah, I think we overestimated how bad the Joe Burrow injury was, but obviously it was fine. He didn't miss any time this year. He has a MVP caliber season, almost 5,000 yards, 70% completion percentage, 43 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I think what hurt them was they had the third worst running game in the NFL. I think asking who their running back was going to be and being concerned about that was valid. And their defense, that was really it. They were just horrendous. A couple games here and there where they played well, but for the most part, just a horrible defense that couldn't get any stops when they needed it. And the funny thing is, we were worried about Jamar Chase, and then he goes out and wins the Triple Crown. So he's statistically the best receiver in the NFL. T. Higgins was the one that missed a lot of games with nagging injuries, didn't have like a season ender or anything. He said he wants to come back on a pay cut. I don't know how much I believe that. Maybe he's thinking, oh, I have a great quarterback here and a great number one in front of me, so maybe this is the best place for me. But I think someone's going to throw the bag at him, and we'll see him in different colors next year. But there's a lot to like here. Just draft a bunch of defensive guys, maybe get a running back late in the draft, maybe sign Najee Harris. I don't know. Do something about it. Last and definitely least in this division, the Cleveland Browns coming into the season. Their over-under was 8.5. We both went hard under. Definitely didn't think they were going to be anywhere close to that. And they ended up going 3-14. What did we get right about this team?
We predicted the downfall of Deshaun Watson. I mean, he kind of looked it last season. I don't know why people were like, "Oh, Deshaun, full season, he's gonna be great. He's gonna be this." He didn't look good, and then he gets hurt. He tears his Achilles, and Browns fans are cheering for that for whatever reason. But that's the Brown season in a nutshell, right? They hate their quarterback. They hate their team. Nothing looks good. They don't have playmakers. Jerry Jeudy makes some plays with Jameis Winston at quarterback. He kind of looks okay, but Nick Chubb doesn't look the same. He's not good. It's just a team devoid of talent, and they have so much money tied up in Deshaun Watson. I don't know where you go from here, but obviously you got to draft a franchise quarterback if you're picking number 2 overall, and figure it out from there. I mean, and you have a generational talent in Myles Garrett, right? So you got some pieces. You just got to build off those pieces.
Yeah, I don't know how much longer Myles Garrett is going to be on the team. There's been a lot of smoke about him not wanting to be part of another rebuild. So he's going to ask out. I think a week ago when I was writing my notes, I was thinking that they're not going to draft a quarterback, that they kind of have to run it back with Deshaun Watson if he's back. And then he apparently tears his other Achilles, I think it was, which happens pretty often.
He tears the same Achilles, apparently. He tears the same one.
He retore it. Okay.
Yeah, retore the same one.
Yikes. Yeah. That's a different thing. Maybe I don't want to speculate, but maybe he wasn't careful with his rehab, whatever it is. But basically it lets them off the hook because they can just put him on IR again. And I don't know how that's going to affect the cap, but I'm sure they'll have to carry the cap hit. At least it won't be the same dead cap if he got cut or traded or something. So we'll see. I mean, we've seen the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos bounced back with a huge dead cap hit from Russell Wilson. They were able to make the playoffs, but I definitely think they will draft one or the other. whether it's Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders, because they do have that number 2 pick. But it was just such a boring and lifeless team with Deshaun Watson. There's no energy. There was just like a nobody likes the guy. You can tell. I mean, I know that his teammates got mad at us fans for celebrating when he got hurt, and they tried to lecture us. And Jameis Winston and Myles Garrett, they all got in their podiums and gave us speeches about not cheering for injury and all that. But I've never seen that reaction before from fans. Usually, like some people pretend, even if it was like Tyreek Hill, at least if he got hurt, he has some sordid history a little bit. I don't think people would celebrate it the same way as they have with Deshaun Watson, where like people were throwing a party on social media when the guy got hurt. And when you have that kind of bad juju around your team, you got to cut that loose. So I'm really curious to see how this offseason plays out and the next couple of years play out as they try to navigate the situation. But I will be rooting against them 100%. So I'm hoping they don't get Sanders because I like the kid. All right.
Maybe they trade for Dak, Khaled. Maybe they trade for Dak.
I like that. It's too bad we already did the NFC. That could have been a fun conversation. Maybe we'll do, mid-season or mid-off-season coaching check-in.